Perpetually Exasperated, the podcast where we've chosen to read new, best-selling books from both sides of the political spectrum so you don't have to, and tell you how at times they've got the right idea, but mostly how they're missing the point of why everything kinda sucks. I'm Joseph.
And I'm Joseph's gradually expanding rage ulcer. In this next episode, we're going to be talking about and reviewing For Love of Country, Leave the Democrat Party Behind, by Tulsi Gabbard. A book which, per Simon & Schuster, quote, calls on those who love America to protect our rights from those who are seeking to undermine them at every turn, encouraging a departure from the Democratic Party.
So, let's see how this keeps us perpetually exasperated, and why you should be as well. Hey, so before we begin, I really need to ask this. When was this book written?
According to the publisher, April 29th of 2024.
Okay. Well, see, that shocks me, because while reading through this book, I found myself extremely confused, and I was wondering if she was talking about the current administration, but somehow mislabeling them as Democrats?
Yep. I am floored we managed to find someone even more dishonest than Tammy Bruce. I really thought she'd maxed out that meter. I will say, though, this is a truly artfully constructed piece of propaganda.
Now, why is that?
Well, because, at first, it just seemed like a badly written piece of crap to me, basically full of these transparently illogical fear-based conclusions and these heavy-handed anecdotal appeal to emotion that make it basically unreadable for someone who's well-informed on the issues.
Mm-hmm.
But that's sort of the point, right? That ensures that it casts the widest possible net and blames the largest possible set of things on the Democrats. It's the same technique as Trump and his, vague, bullshitty oratory. He speaks as broad and emotionally as possible, and then depends on his audience to fill in their own prejudices.
You know, more that I think about it, it's even more smart about it than how you described it. But notice how, throughout the book, her target was the, quote, Democratic elite, or even the Democrat elite, never the Democrats.
Yes, true.
This is an attempt on her part to, at least officially, and with the passage of time clearly temporarily, let Democrat voters off the hook. Make it feel like they've been hoodwinked. They were betrayed. It's not their fault everything in this country sucks. Oh, and by the way, nor is it the fault of Republican voters.
Though notably, it's also not the fault of Republican elites.
Yeah, but not the point. It is, if anything, the permanent Washington elite.
That's true.
And
that is a good term.
Oh, it's such an amazing term. We gotta save that for later. That's the only good thing that I can take from this book. But her technique is a much more eloquent, more focused, and more calculating version of the Trump-style oration. I'm using that term very loosely here. More of a word salad than anything. But
I mean, he's up there, he's talking. Just because it's vapid nonsense to us doesn't technically not make it oration.
No, it's not talking. It's yapping.
That's true. It is more meandering than it is speech. You're right. I'll take it.
Yeah, but regardless, you take the same gaslighting, the same unapologetic hypocrisy, the same blatant disregard of reality, but you twist it and turn it in a way where it's even more populist and less nakedly partisan. That is Tulsi.
Yep.
And look, I know, all the things she said, we picked up on as obvious Trump campaign talking points, but the way it was cloaked made it seem like all she is a Democrat who was banished from the Democratic Party. They're the problem, not her. No. And so, therefore, she can more easily tell Democratic and independent voters who lean Democrat that the party is the problem, not them. And, simultaneously, she can tell Republican voters she's legit. She's on their side, even if she doesn't have an R next to her name yet.
Yeah.
Taken from that perspective, this is, next to Justice Gorsuch's manifestation of melatonin in literature, overruled. Still haven't finished that book, never will.
Never do.
It is the best. Oh, I hate that word here, but it's technically correct. The best articulation of the strategy of these Trump administration authors to lull the average American voter into a false sense of security.
Yeah, she kind of pretends to be an independent, but she's barely bipartisan in her criticism.
Oh, no.
Most of the time, it's the radical Democrat elite.
Mm-hmm.
She does have moments where it's essentially impossible to exclude her new party, the Republicans, from responsibility, but Trump is notably absent from even those moments.
Mm-hmm.
I get this was written before Trump, too, but she's part of that administration.
Yes!
How could any of these principles that she laid out in this book be real if she is part of this administration? She is doing the things that she complains about in this book. She's an elite with no scruples, willing to say anything and do anything for power. She just sees herself as above others because her cause is for God.
Yeah, and it's perfect. It's perfect that we chose this moment in time to read her book because with the benefit of hindsight,
be like, what the fuck is she talking about?
Yeah, because at the time of recording, on October 6th, in the year of our Lord 2025, 9 months and 1 week exactly from inauguration to... Oh, Jesus, it's only been 37 weeks.
Yay.
Oh, God.
Only... I'm not even going to say the number of weeks left. It's going to make me too sad.
Oh, God.
But it's over 100.
We could see that every single one of her points is just oozing pure, undiluted hypocrisy. And, it's almost scary how so many of her grievances became administration policy.
Yep.
So, look, let me just run through 3/4 of them, because that's all I can handle right now. All these points to illustrate this, these are, by the way, quotes from the opening paragraphs of each of her chapters. Starting with Chapter 1, The End of Democracy. That's not ominous at all. No, sir. She says, quote, "Our democracy can survive only if the United States is firmly rooted on the foundation of the rule of law. A nation where justice is applied equally and fairly, no matter your politics, sex, race, or religion. Guided by their belief that the end justifies the means, the Democrat elite are using the power of law enforcement to target political or personal opponents, undermining the essence of the rule of law and exposing their contempt for the American people and our democracy. If we allow this to continue, the America we know and love will disappear forever. This is why I left the Democrat Party and urge other Democrats who love our country to do the same," unquote. Hey, so, quick question. What has the president said recently about the radical left? About Democrats?
That they're the enemy within, I think.
Yeah, what has he said about Antifa?
I want to say enemy within again.
What has ICE been doing and been encouraged to do by, among others, frat dude bro Justice Brett Kavanaugh?
Oh, gosh. I want to say maybe attacking the enemy within.
And what has the president been doing in regards to deploying the National Guard and preparing, apparently, to deploy active duty military to certain Democratic cities to use as, quote, training grounds, unquote?
Gosh, I think a great philosopher and scholar said it best when she said they are, quote, using the power of law enforcement to target political or personal opponents, unquote.
Who the fuck said that?
Tulsi motherfucking Gabbard 14 seconds ago.
Look at that! Hey, we're just gonna move right along here to Chapter 2. Fading Light of Freedom. Are you getting the ominousness?
Yeah, she's a bit dramatic.
A little bit. Quote, "As they constructed our founding documents, our founding fathers understood that their most important task was to contain government power and protect individual rights and liberty. The individual rights that our nation's framers knew they must protect from government abuse or control are what they referred to in the Declaration of Independence as unalienable rights. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. James Madison, often called the father of the Constitution, referred to these natural rights as the great rights of mankind, intrinsic to every one of us as human beings, because he understood that they are endowed to us by God. No person, institution, or government entity can take away these natural, unalienable rights. Contrary to what many may believe, the Bill of Rights was not written to bestow upon us certain rights and freedoms. It was written specifically to protect our unalienable rights from those in government who may abuse their power and seek to undermine such rights. Sadly, the very thing our nation's founders sought to protect us from is happening before our very eyes at the hands of the Democrat elite. They do not respect God, the nature of our unalienable rights, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, or us, the people, and therefore they have no qualms about undermining our freedoms and civil liberties in their endless pursuit of power. I could no longer call myself a Democrat and be associated with a party that does not believe in our intrinsic freedoms and therefore cannot be trusted to protect them. Unquote. So, remind me, what did the president want to do in regards to, for instance, gun rights for transgender folk?
Would you maybe describe it as undermining our freedoms and civil liberties in their endless pursuit of power?
To the extent that the National Rifle Association...
Yeah, the NRA and trans people being on the same side tells you something is fucked up.
Did not have that on my bingo card for 2025, by the way.
Realistically speaking, if I'm being honest, I kind of did, in the sense that I know enough trans people to know that girlies love guns. For a good reason, because people love beating girlies up in the middle of the night.
They do.
And people who get beat up a lot in the middle of the night do tend to love guns. This was less surprising, honestly, to me than a lot of other stuff. Because it's like, would the NRA protect rights for everybody? Yeah, because they're a trade association. They don't care about safety. They want to sell weapons.
Yeah, so, you know what? Good on you, NRA. I still fucking hate you for the most part.
Yeah, fuck them, but at least you're consistent.
Yeah, so give them that. But moving on, remind me again, this is a little more poignant to me personally because of all my friends and family and all that stuff. What does the president want to do in regards to the 14th Amendment and more specifically the notion of birthright citizenship?
Gosh, could it be once again undermining our freedoms and civil liberties in their endless pursuit of power?
Yeah.
No way!
Yeah, and how does citizenship in the United States work if birthright citizenship isn't a thing? How does that work?
We'll go into that in the extemporaneous portion because I actually know what their answer to that is.
Cool. Okay, and one more thing. Remind me, how has he responded to the concept of the First Amendment when it's, you know, mean to him or mean to his friends?
I think I might describe what he's doing as undermining it. Maybe even in pursuit of power.
Golly.
That's crazy.
Crazy. By the way, speaking of that, here's chapter 3. No free speech.
Jesus Christ.
I love these titles, don't you?
I mean, yeah, love in the same way that I love other books written by idiot fascists because it gives me information about my enemy.
Yeah, or I love just seeing people kicked in the balls. I get a sick pleasure from it.
Yes, a delightful dose of Schadenfreude.
So, quote, one of the things that drew me to join the Democrat Party when I was 21 years old was the fact that at the time, they seemed to be the most reliable and passionate defenders of free speech. In Hawaii, I saw a political party that represented the Big Tent, welcoming people of diverse backgrounds and ideas, and encouraging robust discussion and debate. Nationally, the Democrats seemed to be willing to take courageous stands for free speech and civil liberties, even for speech that might not be popular. Sadly, that's not the case anymore. In their obsessive pursuit of power, today's Democrat elite are only interested in protecting speech they approve of, while actively trying to silence speech they don't like. Unquote. All right, real talk. Do I really need to go into how the chairman of the Federal Communications Commission, Brendan Carr, has gone after comedians like Stephen Colbert and Jimmy Kimmel, for instance? Or how ABC and 60 Minutes has caved to the Trump administration through pressure regarding lawsuits and potential mergers with other massive corporations? Do I even need to bring up Charlie Kirk?
We could do this the easy way or the hard way.
Thanks, Ted Cruz.
You're welcome. That's who I was imitating. How did you know?
Because he's such a cringy piece of
That
shit.
was literally the joke I was making. Well, and what's most notable to me about this is it's not like those are bad, but what's most striking to me is the shit with the law firms. Because that's a First Amendment violation. Going to your law firms and saying, you can't defend people I don't like.
Yeah.
That's like the first part of the First Amendment.
You can't do
is
that.
the ability to defend whoever the fuck you want. That's implicit in free speech. And now that's gone.
Yeah, it's almost like they are only interested in protecting speech they approve of while actively trying to silence speech they don't like.
Crazy! Anyway, from chapter 4.
Right. Oh yeah, that's right. I'm still not done. Holy shit. We got to take a quick look at the opening paragraph of chapter 4. They see God as the enemy.
It just keeps getting worse.
I know, right? It's a nesting doll of just pure hatred.
Chapter 9 is just going to be they're outside your house right now. Run!
They cut that from the book because that was a little too on the nose. So, quote, freedom of religion is often called the first of our freedoms. The opening line of the First Amendment to the Constitution reads, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Our nation has deep roots in the foundation of religious liberty, and our founding documents reflect the great care our founders took to protect the rights of people to worship as they see fit, or not to worship at all, and to defend that freedom of expression for every American from persecution or oppression by the state. I cannot associate myself with today's Democrat Party, the leaders of which stand in direct opposition to this freedom, intent on using all the levers of power to target people of faith, especially Christians, and undermine our religious freedom. Unquote. Oh, okay. So it's not okay to target people of faith, but it's now apparently okay to impose faith upon the non-believers? Or including allegedly faith-based views on abortion, on sexual orientation, indeed on gender identity?
Oh yeah, on morality in general, according to the newly created White House Faith Office.
Oh God, they did that.
Oh yeah, that exists. Specifically to combat anti-Christian and anti-Semitic beliefs. No, but they do mention other religious prejudices, but that's very much on like if we get to it.
Judeo-Christian?
Oh yeah, and they very explicitly missed the third part of the Abrahamic triad.
Gee, I wonder why.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
Why did they do that? Even though, again, I was told that we need to protect the rights of people to not worship at all.
Yeah, ostensibly even protect Hindus, people of which Tulsi Gabbard is ostensibly a fucking member.
A member, or at least half her family is.
Yeah.
I don't know how that works.
I don't know. We'll go into religion later.
Yeah,
I don't know if I believe the whole Hindu thing, but
you know what? Maybe we just don't care about all that. What about foreign affairs? I know you love foreign affairs.
I do love foreign affairs.
They're your favorite, aren't they?
Yeah, this is probably going to piss me off.
Oh, yeah. Let's just take a quick look at Chapter 5, the elitist cabal of warmongers.
Oh, my God.
Drink that in. Take a deep, deep sip.
The adrenochrome slurping monsters.
Oh.
Like, that's what this feels like to me.
Quote, the world is closer to a nuclear holocaust than at any time in our history. How did we get here? It is the result of the insatiable, self-serving desire of Hillary Clinton and the Democrat Party elite for power. It is a result of their willingness to sacrifice the national security, safety, and well-being of the American people and the world in order to win the 2016 presidential election. Their strategy was simple. Use their propaganda media and the national security state to stoke and heighten a new Cold War with Russia, portraying Putin as the new Hitler, and then destroy Trump by tying him to Putin. Unquote. So, I guess it's just fine to let Russia do whatever it wants in Ukraine and eventually the Baltic states. No big deal, right? It's fine when we, for instance, launch a massive strike on Iran. Do you remember when we did that? We sent so many missiles over there, so many bombers over there to serve the interests of Israel. Oh, and by the way, it's fine for that matter to keep supporting Israel while they continue a genocide against the people of Gaza and to a much quieter extent, the people of the West Bank. And by the way, it's fine too to enact military strikes on boats coming from Venezuela and keep saber rattling about eventual war there. By the way, the Venezuelans recently said, hey, get ready for a false flag operation on the U.S. Embassy in Venezuela.
Oh yeah, they're mad about this. Because of course they fucking are.
Yeah, and by the way, also, have we already forgotten? Blatant calls to annex Canada, the Panama Canal.
Oh yeah, I forgot about Panama.
Greenland?
I remember Greenland and Canada, but I totally forgot that he wanted the Panama Canal.
Which is part of a sovereign state?
Yep.
All of these are sovereign states, by the way. What do you have to say about all that, Tulsi?
Fucking nothing.
I'm bored. Let's go back to the domestic affairs shit. Chapter 6, Fomenting Racism.
That's honestly pretty tame for her.
Honestly.
I would have expected her to say, ripping the black heart out of America, or something like that. Like,
oh, come on, she's not Tammy Bruce.
She feels like a person who is exactly in line with how Tammy Bruce feels about things and is simply more eloquent. Because what we learned from Tammy Bruce's very brief stint as a White House press secretary is that she is not a good communicator at all.
No.
Despite having been a radio host for 30 years. Tulsi does seem to at least be able to communicate.
She's very good at that. We have to give her that.
Which is really too bad given the things she says.
Yes, such as this quote. When I joined the Democrat Party over 20 years ago, this issue weighed heavy on my heart. I saw leaders in the party at the time who seemed to be committed to bringing the Reverend Martin Luther King's dream to life, a nation where we can be judged based on the content of our character rather than the color of our skin. Sadly, today's Democrat elite have betrayed the memories, sacrifices, and dreams of leaders like Dr. Martin Luther King, reducing us to the color of our skin, using identity politics to tear us apart for their own political gain. They support programs teaching children they are born as either the privileged or the victims, oppressors or oppressed, an immutable trait, they say, based solely on the color of their skin. They preach anti-racism, yet they have become the racists they claim to hate. I am no longer a Democrat because I could not stomach associating myself with those who, in their blind pursuit of power, defy Dr. King's dream, tear our country apart, foment racism, and fuel division. Unquote. See, ICE. See how it's fine to racially profile people because they look Hispanic. Justice Kavanaugh said so. It's fine.
That's true.
And see what they just recently did in an apartment block in Chicago, where they rappelled in on Black Hawk helicopters and arrested, among others, African-American citizens, including children.
Yep, zip-tied babies.
They zip-tied children, separated them from their parents.
Yep.
They dragged them out naked into the open, and they threw them into vans. I'll stop here. I'm pretty sure I made my point.
Yep. And here she is, now attempting to smear Obama based on essentially fabricated slander. And for what? Not to save anyone. Not because she cares about the American people like she whines perpetually that the Democrat elite don't. Not from 1 ounce of a sense of duty or righteousness. For power.
Yes.
For her boss to distract from accusations of fraud, corruption, or pedophilia.
And if anything, she called her boss, soon to be boss at the time of writing, remember?
True.
A strong man. You know, one of the strongest men she ever met.
Yes, but notably not a strong man in the, leader sense. Because I guess they just can't use words in brain.
Words don't mean anything anymore. Have we not learned anything from the past 10 fucking years?
True, and yet here we are doing a podcast about books.
Words. Yeah, we're doing podcasts about words. Please like and subscribe.
Yes.
But again, she was calling him one of the strongest men she ever met. I remember listening to that as I was in my car, listening to this audiobook, getting on the freeway, and considering projectile vomiting out of my driver's window so I wouldn't get it over my windshield and cause a crash. And all this for being so under fire from Democratic Party for all the investigations, all the accusations, and all the credible evidence of that same fraud, that corruption, and the pedophilia. Release the Epstein files, you fucking cowards.
Yep.
And so I say, shame on you, Tulsi. You fucking hypocrite. You absolute ghoul. You utter monster. You just laid out in 6 introductory chapters from that fucking rant that I had the same fucking things the Republican Party under President Donald J. Trump is doing to us right now. And what are you doing? Nothing. Nothing at all.
Worse than nothing. Participating. Actively.
Your credibility with me prior to this book was already pretty thoroughly underwater, but now it's dead. Gone. Buried. You sold out. You sold out harder than anyone else I could think of off the top of my head. And this is assuming the principles that you had held prior to 2022 were even legitimate, which I gotta say, now I hold an extreme skepticism considering the 180 you've done and how the 30 pieces of silver that you got made you stay loyal to a man who has done everything you claim to hate, save for your hatred of transgender people. And even then, how Christian is that really? Shame on you.
Yeah, this is kind of honestly what scares me most about this administration. Nothing they've said, either before or after they took power, has any meaning at all.
Nothing has meaning anymore.
It's just a motive claptrap meant to assure the rabid base that plans are still in motion. But do we really think that the people saying these things are this stupid?
Yes and no.
I mean, maybe Hegseth, maybe no.
Yeah, no, they're fucking stupid.
Gabbard? Bondi? Vance?
Nah.
I don't buy that the stuff that they say is actually the plan that they have. I think that this is the public attitude of someone with a private plan. I think this is the behavior of people who know that something else is going on. And given that really the only commonality they seem to have is a belief in the Christian God, I fear truly what that plan is and what is making Moses Mike show his belly for Trump right now.
Moses Mike.
I mean, he called himself that.
Yes. Yes, but oh my God, Moses Mike. I'm going to have to remember that one. But yeah, Tulsi isn't stupid. She can't be. A lot of these people do seem to have something in mind, at least from our perspective, from the information that we have, which isn't a lot, and yet it's a fair amount. And knowing that they're not stupid, that they have a very focused agenda and plan. Oh boy, this kind of feels, it's helpless. Like, oh God. But there is one thing I found that helped. In the epilogue, at peace and free, or at war and not free, the choice is ours. How Orwellian, fuck me. Tulsi wrote, quote, on January 27th, 1838, Abraham Lincoln delivered a speech to the Young Men's Lyceum of Springfield, Illinois. Lincoln saw this as an opportunity to underscore the vital importance of the rule of law, particularly as it relates to threats to U.S. institutions. What follows is an excerpt from that speech that deserves our serious contemplation. Quote, at what point, then, is the approach of danger to be expected? I answer, if it ever reach us, it must spring up among us. It cannot come from abroad. If destruction be our lot, we must ourselves be its author and finisher. As a nation of free men, we must live through all time or die by suicide. unquote. Continuing with Tulsi. It is difficult to witness what the Democrat elites are consciously orchestrating, be it the multifaceted attack on the First Amendment, the defunding of police, undermining our Second Amendment right, politicizing our institutions to silence opposition, labeling and targeting half the population as deplorables, domestic terrorists, or extremists, dividing us based on race, opening our borders to millions of illegal, unvetted migrants, allowing our cities to be overrun with crime, destroying our economy, and driving our nation further into debt, rewarding media organizations that serve as propaganda tools of the elite, etc., without remembering Lincoln's warning. If this great nation dies, it will be by suicide. If we can agree that our country is headed rapidly in the wrong direction, the obvious next question is, now what? Where do we go from here? What do we do? Our future is in our hands. It's easy to feel as if the vision of our founders had for our country has begun to fade. At times, we may feel like our voices aren't being heard or that we can't make a difference. I hear all the time from people who say to me, why bother voting? My vote won't make a difference. Or, the system is rigged. Why bother participating in it? Given the darkness, corruption, and abuse of power that hovers like a dark cloud above our country, it's understandable to feel overwhelmed, even hopeless. But if we sit back and do nothing, we will lose the country we love. And those who hate our country and all we stand for win. And things will begin to move very quickly from the hardship and insanity that we see today to catastrophic, unquote. So leave aside, I know it's hard, but we gotta try. Leave aside the right-wing dog whistles like defunding the police, open borders, etc., blah, 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 blah. There's a message here we need to think about. From President Lincoln, quote, as a nation of free men, we must live through all time or die by suicide, unquote. What is this we are living through right now? Not 2024, 2025. If not suicide on a national level.
True.
Or rather, perhaps, this is a forced euthanasia by billionaires who want to keep stealing from us.
Yeah, not quite a euthanasia, more like a poisoning. So we're just supine enough to continue stealing from.
Yeah, and oppressing us and leaving us to the mercy of a planet that is responding to our excesses in increasingly destructive ways. Or hell, let's bring it back to a more comprehensive level, leaving us isolated and ridiculed and vulnerable on a geopolitical stage. Our allies no longer trust us. Our enemies see us as weak and vulnerable. Our empire is dying. And for what?
Greed.
Greed. 30 pieces of silver.
Yep.
And this, above all else, is especially upsetting to me, given Tulsi Gabbard should know better. She had left-wing ideals. Again, let's assume that they're legitimate. I'll give her the benefit of the doubt in this one moment. Let's assume that she did hold those ideals dearly. She went to war. She's seen death. She should know, as the director of national intelligence, we are more vulnerable than ever. How is she just okay with all of this? How can she write all of this, given what she's been through, what she said in the past? It leaves me baffled.
Honestly, I don't think she wrote this. I think this is another example of the cult mindset, when you are truly unsure of what to do to restore your power. You are deeply vulnerable to a person who is willing to come in and lie to you about how to do that. So I don't think she wrote this. Like, beyond the lockstep tone that this shares with other Fox News on paper that we've read so far, it's just so, like, empty of personality. It has anecdotes related to her, but even being read by her, it does not sound like she wrote it. It sounds like more Heritage Foundation nonsense. Either that, or she is the most Catholic Hindu ever to exist ever in the world. Like, I know that she's a Hindu in the same sense that, like, the Westboro Baptist Church is Christian, but still, it is noticeable how completely absent not just the direct evidence of her worship of, I think it's Vishnu,
yeah.
but, like, not only is that absent, but even the philosophical implications that come from that worship are completely absent in this book. This is a fully Christian, almost fully Catholic text. This is just more structuralist nonsense.
It's not even Catholic, it's evangelical.
Yep.
This is born-again Christian shit. And, you know, do you remember the weirdest part of that whole audiobook?
Oh, I know what you're going to say.
Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound. Clearly, one of us is a little more religious than the other.
Well, I actually do know all of the words to Amazing Grace. I just like to put whatever in religious hymns so that people who think that it's bad to forget the words get angry at me.
Correction. One of us is more irreverent than the other.
That is absolutely correct.
There we go. Anyway, not the point. Doesn't matter. Her singing Amazing Grace and playing her guitar, I'm going to assume that she actually did play the guitar.
Very possible.
And it wasn't like, you know, spliced in.
She does have strong youth pastor vibes.
She really does. Because that's what she grew up with her parents.
That's true.
Her parents, especially her father, had youth pastor vibes to him.
Yep.
It was really weird.
She's a youth pastor Nepo baby.
Oh my God, that is the most cursed thing I ever heard.
I'm sorry for bringing that into existence. It's true, though.
Oh, look. Okay, look. My point is, I have never heard that in an audiobook before. Now, granted, small sample size. Maybe it's more prevalent than that. Maybe
Well, I listen to a lot of audiobooks, and, like, I've maybe heard one other audiobook that has a song in it, and it's fiction. Like, it's fiction, and the person wrote this as part of their fiction. I have never, ever in my life, and I've probably read hundreds of nonfiction books in audiobook form, ever has anybody sung. Not once.
Okay. That's just... It's so off.
It's really awkward.
And you know what it made me think at the time? It made me think this is to establish her Christian cred with the Republican base and with Donald Trump.
100%.
It was a, look at me, guys. I swear, I'm one of you. See, I can play your songs. I can sing your tune. Please let me in.
Yep. I can be vulnerable like you. Please allow me access to your wellspring of power.
Oh, God. It was so unbelievably gross. Like, look, we've seen some kowtowing.
Yes.
In the time that we have yapped into this void. Please support us as we yap into the void. Hit like and subscribe. But, look. While it follows a similar playbook to Tammy Bruce and Pete Hegseth, as I said, it's an elevated version of the oration, the vibe. It's a different facet of the same ugly as shit crystal.
Yes, it's the most sermon-esque so far.
Yeah, and this is a thing, what it revolves around is gaslighting us into thinking that these people are normal. And they don't have an agenda, when they very clearly do. They have laid out their plans for us. And what's scariest is that it's not just in Project 2025. This very book laid out the plans in exhaustive detail before she was even a part, officially, of the Trump campaign. This has reached a new level of exasperating for me.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's like, honestly, the degree and duration for which I have been exasperated has just become so all-encompassing and mind-numbing that I don't know, can you think of any words that might describe that level of exasperation? Like, maybe perpetually? I actually want to start with something what will seem completely unrelated to this, but we'll move back to.
We yap for not a living, just as a hobby. So at some point, shit will make sense, maybe.
Yeah, well, but let me start with her singing "Amazing Grace."
Do we have to?
Yes, absolutely, because it's the most odious thing I can think of.
Man.
But the thing she did there The thing that she did there is more... It's such a quintessentially Christian thing to do. Like, there's a reason that when you go to church, you don't just listen to a pastor sing. You sing along with them. And the reality is because most people are shit singers. They just are.
This is true. I was singing on the way here to warm up the voice, and I know that I suck at this.
Well, exactly. And it's not... Like, singing is hard.
It is very hard.
Most people do not practice it. And even with practice, many people do not. Like, it's also partially a physical capability thing. Your voice box is part of your body. It's a muscle. But because of that, the ritual of getting together and singing a song is intrinsically vulnerable. Because you're making a fool of yourself, right? You're getting up and you're singing something that you objectively are bad at singing. You go, amazing grace, how sweet, whatever. But you're revealing something vulnerable about yourself. And in that moment, if you, as a constructor of propaganda, can get someone to think that you are being vulnerable with them, they in turn will become intellectually vulnerable to you. Because they will think of what you're communicating in this moment as authentic. When, let's be honest, nothing about this book is authentic.
No.
That Amazing Grace thing was produced, inserted very intentionally to create this moment of emotional vulnerability.
Yeah.
It's just a propaganda trick. And it's a very, very sophisticated one.
It is, and I have to be somewhat reflective on this myself, where in prior episodes, especially the recent ones, I've gotten a little bit emotional about some of the things that we're dealing with and how you can hear not just the rage, but the sadness.
Yep.
The grief of witnessing what's going on and the helplessness that comes from that. And that grief transcends and goes over the tubes of the internet into the ear holes of someone listening and allows them to be a little more vulnerable intellectually to the yapping that I have to say.
That's correct.
The little voice box. So
you demonstrate that you feel similarly to how they feel, and so they feel safe in thinking how you think.
But I thought that empathy was, a weakness.
It is. Because if you are broadly empathic, you are vulnerable not just to your quote-unquote friends doing this, but your enemies.
So this is a strategic empathy.
That's correct. This is very explicitly something. They want people to be inclined against empathy with those with whom they disagree. They don't want people to not be empathic with them. They want that empathy to exist in order to allow them to be compelling to those people. They just want you to have a moment where you are feeling empathy in a situation where you might not expect to go, wait a minute, the enemy is manipulating me. But they don't want you to do that when they're doing it, despite the fact that they're using the same tools. And part of the reason these tools are powerful is because emotion is not rational. Emotion is where you go when rationality has failed you.
Yeah.
And emotion is not something you can argue your way out of. You can't talk someone out of their fear-based belief that something is happening. You either need to demonstrate it to them, or you need to ignore them.
Yeah. And that's kind of what we're doing as well, where we're trying to appeal to everyone's perpetual exasperation.
Exactly.
And their feelings that shit is fucked and we don't know how to get out of this fucked shit situation. And it's especially potent for people who are emotionally vulnerable, not just often because things are like the current situation prompts all of us to be a little bit more emotionally vulnerable in general. But this is also, as you mentioned at the top, ritualized vulnerability. And so she's doing the ritual to show that she is in fact one of them.
Yes, and that she is a safe person with whom to be vulnerable. It is a trick because this is not an instance of vulnerability. If Tulsi Gabbard came to your house and she sang Amazing Grace to your family, that's vulnerability. It really is.
Yeah, because then she's submitting herself, not like, yes, this submits her to judgment, but by being in person, the judgment is visceral.
Also, the payoff is nebulous. If I come to your house and I sing Amazing Grace, if I get on my guitar and I just sing that shit, I don't know what you're going to do. You might laugh. You might post that shit on YouTube. You might spend the rest of your life mocking me for that.
Yeah.
This? She was approached by a group of people that said, we're going to create a piece of propaganda that will align you with a certain community. And you won't have to do anything. We'll pay you to do it, in fact. You'll make money doing that. That is not vulnerability.
No.
That is synthetic. That is propaganda.
It's synthetic vulnerability. It's
Correct.
synthetic. It's synthetic empathy.
It is something that Stalin would have told you is very powerful. So would have Hitler, because it is.
Yeah.
Convincing your audience that you feel the same way about what's happening that they do is the first step to convincing them to think about it the way you do.
Who else has done that recently?
More or less the entire Republican Party, unfortunately. But
And one guy in particular.
who are you thinking of?
Donald Trump.
Oh, well, yeah.
Because
That's true.
Because the thing that a lot of people talk about with Donald Trump is that he tells it like it is.
Yeah.
Which we recognize as a whole load of fucking bullshit.
Yes. But they don't.
They don't, because in a way, he's still different from others in that he's not polished. He doesn't read off of a script. Not really.
And he feels, at least according to his voters, the same way about these things that they do. He feels angry at the radical left for doing this. He thinks that they are bad and evil, just like they do.
And he doesn't feel empathy for his enemies. He doesn't wish them well.
No, of course not.
And that in itself is a strange synthetic empathy and a strange synthetic vulnerability.
But it's the Fox News thing, right? Because that's what Fox News has ultimately been trying to train their watchers and listeners for in the last 10 years, is that your enemy is not foreign. It's domestic. There are people who you consider countrymen who don't consider you countrymen, who are hurting you.
Yeah.
And that we need to hurt them back.
Yeah.
And that's what he's doing. He is demonstrating that particular, because it's less true for men experiencing anger specifically, but it's still true that if you're a man and you're angry in a situation and you just express that without thinking about it, without strategically considering how you're going to do it, that can be vulnerability. People can laugh at you.
Yeah.
People can say you're being hysterical. People can imply that you're being effeminate, which is something that men are terrified of.
Oh, very much so. Like
that is a moment of vulnerability. Expressing anger before you know that your audience agrees with you is a moment of vulnerability. Now, again, it's synthetic in his case because he doesn't just say this in front of crowds. He does an intense amount of market research.
Yeah.
He does an intense amount of strategic planning in order to make sure that the audience that he says this stuff to and the audience that it's pushed to afterwards online are incredibly sympathetic with these things.
Yeah.
But the technique in a vacuum is vulnerability. It's when you add on the party mechanism around it, it is no longer any of that. It's just prop. Agitprop specifically.
Yeah. Boy, that's upsetting. And how do you combat synthetic empathy? How do you combat artificial vulnerability? Because
real
you can't
empathy.
Real
vulnerability. None of this producing well cut out media shit. Going to places, walking neighborhoods with people and asking them what they need. Just like Mamdani did.
Yeah, and by the way, he's still polling very well.
Of course he is. And it's like, and people wonder how it is that a socialist communist Muslim could have this kind of pull in New York. This is how. Because he is combating the trash technique of the monoparty of synthetic empathy on the ground, in person, every day.
Yeah.
And that is more meaningful to people than any dumb bullshit policy plank you bring up. Because the reality is, it's not like a mayor is a dictator. And we don't want that in America. We don't want somebody who can get up there and turn our dream of America into reality with no checks and balances.
Yeah.
We want somebody fighting for us in that system.
Yeah.
And that's what he's proving that he's going to be, even for the old pro-Israel Jews who are terrified of him.
Yeah.
He's still going to them and being like, here's the thing, dude, I'm going to be your mayor, and I want to be your mayor too, even if you don't vote for me, even if you call me a terrorist.
Yeah.
That is how you beat that.
And there's another guy I recently saw do something like that in a clip off of Reddit, which was taken from TikTok. The social media web is just...
It's hell. It's all hell.
Pure hell. But the candidate for Senate in Maine, name is Graham Plattner.
Graham Plattner, yeah.
He was at some kind of a town hall, and there was one woman in the crowd who was complaining about the ostensible reason for the current shutdown. We are in day 6 of the shutdown.
Yes, we are.
Still going, and still no progress whatsoever, of course. But this woman was complaining about her fear of immigrants taking health care.
Yeah.
Basically taking health care from her. And so many people in the crowd started shouting her down. That's not true. Yeah. That's not true. You're wrong.
Shut up.
You're lying. But then candidate Plattner said, no, hold on. Hear me out on this. She's hurting just like you. She's been manipulated to be angry at the wrong people, but she's still right to be angry because she's in the same situation as you are. I am paraphrasing him horribly here, but the point is that the way to him to combat this anger and this artificial, astroturfing, synthetic empathy and vulnerability is to be truly vulnerable and to say, we're hurting like you are.
And to be truly empathic and be like, here's the thing, she's mad for good reason.
She is mad for good reason because where is her health care?
Mm-hmm.
Where is any of our health care? Why is it that we don't have health care? And if we do, we have to pay a stupid amount for health care to get health care that really isn't that great when you think about it.
We pay some of the highest prices in the world for some of the lowest standards of care anywhere.
Why?
I mean,
we know why. We know why, but really this is the question that we have to ask everybody. Why? And then bringing up another candidate, bringing up the candidate for Senate for this senator seat in Texas, James Tallarico, who, unlike Tulsi Gabbard, who is talking about this faux love through aloha and all of this fucking shit.
Oh my God. She says aloha so much, and it's so grating because it is so clear that she is using it via the understanding of a white colonialist.
It is a white colonialist version of aloha.
Yes.
But James Tallarico, in a recent clip that was on Instagram, which was posted on Reddit, because again, social media is fucking hell, was talking about how Christian nationalists don't really want a Christian state because an actual Christian state would provide health care, would provide education.
Correct.
Would provide childcare, would provide a seat at the table for believers and non-believers alike.
Correct.
It is a truly empathy-based version of Christianity that he preaches. The man is a preacher.
Yeah, like the Jesus version of Christianity.
The actual Jesus Christ, Lord and Savior of us all, version of Christianity. And he had said that it's not left versus right. It's up versus down.
Yep.
And to the people who are angry about minorities stealing from us, minorities that are taking what is ours, minorities that are destroying this country, and so on and so forth, he came out and said, and I'm still shocked that he said this out loud to a whole bunch of people, the only minority that is destroying America are the billionaires.
Yes. That is the kind of politician you want.
That is the politician who is speaking the language of the aggrieved, of the angry, of those who just want a comfortable life.
Yep.
That is the kind of politician that the Democratic Party, not Democrat,
Yeah.
sick and tired of this shit. Don't call them the Democrats. They are the Democratic Party.
Yep.
Even if the Democratic Party has fucked up, and boy, have they fucked up so many fucking times. For instance, Chuck Schumer, who really is not a fucking Democrat.
No.
Or
we've heard
Hakeem
what
Jeffries.
the policies of the Baileys are. He is a center-right Republican.
Or Hakeem Jeffries.
Oh, God, Hakeem.
Those two who have not endorsed Zoran Mamdani, they don't represent us. They
don't even represent their own fucking voters, dude.
They're not. That's not who our torchbearers should be.
They're representing the donors that paid our bills. That's it.
They're the donors up to and including AIPAC.
Yeah, I didn't want to say it, but
I'll say it.
Yeah, AIPAC is like very clearly invested in destroying Mamdani's campaign.
Yeah.
Specifically.
Yeah, and you can even tie it back to our state. Adam Schiff.
Yeah.
Big just recipient of all of those AIPAC dollars. God, and we considered him a torchbearer for us in the first Trump administration.
Yep, because, you get allies where you can find them.
Pencil neck Schiff, I remember that.
Forgot about that.
I remember the shirts. The shirts. Man. And nowadays, who the fuck is he?
But it's a lack of in some ways, the lack of empathy, the lack of true functional empathy, and the replacement of it by synthetic empathy is a symptom of the corporatism problem.
Yeah.
Because synthetic empathy is in many ways a product of the advertising machine. And synthetic empathy as a technique was pioneered by these fucking ad guys who are like, put a person who looks kind of like you, who talks kind of like you, but is richer using this thing, you'll want to use it.
Yeah. And it creates these parasocial relationships.
Exactly. And then you parasocially vote for this person that you think should be king because you have no notion that it is possible for them to exercise real empathy towards you.
Yeah.
And so the shutdown fight, right?
Yes, this whole fucking thing about the shutdown with it seems like the big sticking point for at least the Republicans, if I am understanding correctly, is the whole thing about healthcare for immigrants. Allegedly. It's not true. It's not going to be providing that, but that's what this whole thing is all about, right?
Well, so I want to do an experiment on you.
All right.
So, the claim that the Republicans are that they're actually standing on is that the Democrats are shutting down the government so that they can give health care to illegal immigrants. Okay. That's their thing, right?
Oh, yeah, right.
How would you rate that as a claim in terms of veracity between 0 and 100?
Single digits at best.
So for me, I would have said 0. Because it really does just seem like they've kind of given up on telling the truth and are just saying the most inflammatory thing they can say.
Yeah, because I'm trying to... The only reason I didn't say 0 is that I have tried to put myself out of my lefty mindset and into average American voter mindset.
Yes.
The ones who are not as attuned to what's going on.
So... you would say, based on your understanding of the architecture of federal funding for healthcare, that it is not true that federal funds go towards a system that makes it possible to provide health insurance for undocumented immigrants.
Why? That doesn't make any sense. It can't be true.
Here is my problem with the fucking Democrats.
All right.
I'm going to describe to you a system that exists, just a thing that exists in reality today.
Uh-huh.
In California, and also in New York, but to a lesser degree, New York's a little bit less tricky about how they do this. In California, until 2026, undocumented immigrants can apply for healthcare, for health coverage. That's a thing that exists. And it's paid for through Medi-Cal, which is our version of Medicaid.
Right.
California's Medi-Cal system is underfunded by about $8 billion.
Yeah.
And part of how that budget shortfall is closed is borrowing. But another part of how it's closed is this very specific system of funding through something called an MCO tax.
What's an MCO?
MCO stands for Managed Care Organization.
Okay.
And an MCO tax, very, very basically, is a mechanism by which states can tax providers of healthcare in order to ensure that they actually are collecting enough money to cover the costs that they are claiming that they'll be able to cover throughout the year.
So they're taxing the insurance companies,
yes,
like Kaiser or Anthem.
And basically the way it works is a tax is levied and collected, and then it's reimbursed to the insurance company over the course of the year. Basically, it's forcing them to save money to pay for bills.
Okay.
Under normal circumstances, and for almost every state, the MCO is a flat rate, basically levied based on how many people are covered. And because of this, because it's a flat rate and it's basically determined by the federal government, part of how reimbursements from the federal government to state governments for Medicaid costs are through this MCO tax. Because the MCO tax basically will tell you how many people are being covered, and therefore how much money the federal government should put into this.
Okay.
Through what is described both by the federal government and by the California government as a loophole, California's MCO tax is significantly higher than anywhere else in the country. It is assessed by a special method, and the reason for this, as claimed on California government websites, is to increase the amount of federal tax dollars drawn down to the Medicaid system in California.
What?
All of this is true. I've done this research. I can show you these websites. California describes its special MCO tax framework as a legal way that has no cost to states to increase federal funding for Medicaid. All of these things are true.
Okay.
And I'm going to be real honest. I don't think that it is reasonable, empathetic, or ultimately correct to say to people that are concerned that federal dollars are going to a program that allows illegal immigrants to be covered is hysterical, because that's true. If California did not have the dollars from the government, they would have to do one of two things. Either refuse to cover undocumented immigrants or make a case to their own citizens that some of their citizens will go without coverage in order to cover these undocumented people. And the evidence for this being true is that this program is ending on January 1st, 2026. And it wasn't until the BBB was passed.
Really?
So now, my personal opinion is that this is a silly discussion to be having.
Yeah.
Having a discussion about whether or not there should be a class of citizens in our country that receive healthcare is fucking stupid, especially because the vast majority of healthcare needs that especially an undocumented population that's going to have is going to be work-related injuries.
Yeah.
So this is a fucking stupid but this is how we fucking lose trust, is when we go to voters who can go online and discover everything that I just discovered to be 100% true, even admitted by sources coming from California.
Yeah.
California.gov sites that say the whole purpose of us structuring this tax this way is to draw down additional federal dollars to fund our underfunded program that covers undocumented immigrants. That is true. And we just dismiss people who bring that shit up. And that's insane to me. Because we're fucking too cowardly to have the empathic conversation of, do you actually believe that there should be people inside your community, your neighbors, who do not get treatment for their healthcare problems? Do you want them to be disabled in your community? Do you want them to be sick in your community? Is that what you want? But we can't have that conversation. We are too weak and too synthetic empathy kinds of people, because you can't synthetic empathy this kind of discussion.
No.
This is not there's no synthetic argument for you should provide healthcare for these undocumented people who are not citizens of your country who just came here without permission. That's not a synthetic logic. It is a basic empathic calculation of, do you want the people in your fucking community to be healthy?
Yeah.
But we can't have those conversations because we can't make an ad like that.
We can't make an ad like that that's snappy and simple.
Yeah, and has a little ditty of fucking Tulsi Gabbard singing Amazing Grace so people believe the dumb bullshit we say.
And we loop back around. But
that's what bugs me. That in this case, that is why the Democrats are losing, because both parties are synthetic empathy parties, and the Republicans are winning because they are the synthetic rage party.
Yeah.
And that's popular right now because shit is fucked up. Because these synthetic empathy people who are pretending to care about us have finally been unmasked. They fucking don't. They will lie just as readily as the Republicans when challenged on an issue that they don't know how to argue. Because that's where we are now. They are both fucking lying to us and shutting the government down because they don't know how to tell us the truth.
Yeah, and I didn't get into this in the scripted portion, but had Tulsi in her book decided to devote at least a good half of it to criticizing the Republican Party for doing these exact same things,
she would have such a point.
She like the second chapter about I think it was the second chapter about like a whole bunch of grievances about the Democratic Party, or even just talking about her run in 2020 and how she was sidelined.
So much of this book seems a little bit, especially like, I didn't notice, but you have one of the quotes that you pulled blames not just the Democrat elite, but very specifically Hillary Clinton.
Yes.
And sometimes I wonder, was Tulsi just like desperately offended by having to run against Hillary and having everybody be like, you're a crazy cultist and we don't want you as our representative?
Yeah.
It really, in some ways, feels like she just got her toes stepped on by Hillary Clinton. It was like, look at stupid Hillary with your stupid Clinton money and your stupid Democrat elite, bitch.
Yeah.
Like, that's what this feels like.
It does feel like that, but we have to bring up the synthetic empathy and the moment of vulnerability when she was describing that very effective put down of her and whatnot, because I've said this before, I voted for Bernie, and the effort by the Democratic machine,
to crush him
in 2016 and 2020 is well documented.
Oh, yes, it is.
And so, even though, yes, there is a lot of the, oh, look, poor pitiful me, I'm being banished by the Democratic Party and whatnot, or excuse me, the Democrat Party, I need to talk like her like this. But in some cases, she has a point.
Oh, yeah, and I'm not saying that she doesn't have... I think the problem is that somebody who approached this from a perspective not of vendetta, but from legitimate ideological concern, could not have possibly written this book, even in 2024, without acknowledging that Trump Republicans are just as bad.
Right, and had that been dropped, or she was going after them, and she stayed as an independent... and she was polling for, I don't fucking know, like Jill fucking Stein or something like that. If she was like a Green Party person trying to push all of this, or even just being an independent who is too left-wing for the Democratic Party and whatnot, and went into this list of grievances and all of this shit, there were times listening to her, and I'm going like, yeah, you have a point. You're right. There are times that the Democratic Party doesn't give a shit about us.
Absolutely. I mean, we've been ranting about that. This is our whole mono-party pitch.
This is our mono-party pitch, that neither party actually cares about us. Neither party works for us, save for just a vanishingly few number of individuals who actually get it and are resisting, God bless them, resisting the efforts of the donors and whatnot to stifle or change their message and not sell out to them like she did.
Yep.
She sold out hard for her 30 pieces of silver. And it worked. She is the director of national intelligence right now.
Unfortunately so. But this is how, in some ways, this is how the synthetic empathy is created. You take somebody who is in need of real empathy. In Tulsi Gabbard's case, it was her in need of empathy in understanding that she was unfairly treated by her party.
Mm-hmm.
And a money force found her and provided that real empathy by creating a weapon that she could use to point at the person that hurt her.
Yeah.
And in that, they create synthetic empathy to give that gun that power.
Ah, boy.
It's incredible. It really... part of the reason that I like this project is because I think the Heritage Foundation is a once-in-a-generation institution in terms of their ability to effectively create and market propaganda. I think what they fight for is evil.
It is pure evil.
It's even if I believed in their version of God, I would argue that what they are trying to do is evil by that definition.
Right.
I think they're very effective at their job.
They are so effective.
I can't think of any single entity in the 21st century besides potentially Russia's Internet Research Agency that has been as materially impactful on not just American but global politics in the 21st century.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what they do is now, I will say one thing. Part of the reason that this is the case is because returning to something that you pulled out from this book and something that she brought up, the death of our nation by suicide.
Right.
Well, I would agree that what we are going through right now very much is the national equivalent of struggling with yourself with a gun in your own hand.
Yeah.
I think it's important for us to not lose sight of the fact that while, yes, we are in this situation where our right hand is trying to shoot us in the head while our left hand tries to point the gun at our abdomen instead.
Yeah. God.
Neither hand picked up the gun. The person who handed that gun to us was not American. They were Russian, they were Chinese, and they were all other foreign powers who look at the position that we occupy on the UN Security Council and the World Bank and the IMF and think, fuck those guys. Rightfully, because the reality is the way that we have abused our control over monetary policy, especially after the fall of the Soviet Union, has marked us as an incompetent ruler.
Yeah.
We are not a good king.
No.
And we have, in every circumstance, refused to give up that power willingly. And so, over time, the momentum and the funding for a mechanism that will have us lose that power voluntarily has been growing speed. And what is that? What is what we're going through now, if not that? Look at what Donald Trump's relationship to the fucking UN is. Oh, we, for the first time since World War II, have a real chance of voluntarily giving up our position on the Security Council.
That's insane.
That is an unbelievable geopolitical victory for everyone but the US.
That just...
And maybe we just accidentally tripped into shooting ourselves right in the head, foot, or abdomen. I think personally that Xi Jinping is a smart guy. I think personally that Putin's a smart guy. And I think that they have real smart people in their governments. And that they have been looking at us and being like, you know what, I don't think that it makes sense for them to have all this power. I don't want to go to war with them because A, they're insane and have all the nukes.
Yeah.
And B, fighting America has never been effective. Fucking with us emotionally always has. How the fuck did the Russians really win the Vietnam War? Did they outspend us on military? No. They made the war unpopular here.
Yeah.
And eventually we were like, fuck it, we can't keep throwing... But there's a reason that they were so anti-communist during that period. Yes, there were people who legitimately believed that the war was a war of unnecessary imperial attrition. But that was funded by the Russians who wanted to beat us in the fucking war. And that's exactly where we are now, 40, 50 years later. So, I have serious issues with what we're going through right now because I recognize that it is partly a quintessentially American problem. These are the neo-Confederates that we have been fighting since Reconstruction.
Yeah.
But they didn't just randomly get power now. They have power for two reasons. One, because the longer we go without having a clear solution to the climate problem, the more ripe the ground will be for fascists. Because when you don't have a good solution to a problem, liars will prevail.
Yeah.
But also because, we are 40 years into an experiment of what if America was king, and everybody hates it. Honestly, even a lot of Americans. Because this whole push against to get rid of USAID and all this stuff, that is a resistance to being king. Because when you're king, you don't just control, you give alms, you support, you protect. And Americans don't want to do that for the rest of the world anymore.
No, we've not wanted to do that for a majority of our existence.
Exactly.
We right up until the First World War under Woodrow Wilson, we wanted nothing to do with the affairs of Europe.
Precisely.
And then we did get involved eventually because of very effective advertising.
Mm-hmm. And also the Japanese helped us.
Well,
this is World War II, or the World War I.
Yeah, World War I.
World War I was just effective advertising, you're right.
It was effective advertising, and the Germans did not help.
Yep, that's true.
The sinking, and then that stupid Zimmerman telegram.
Yeah, and there's a lot of evidence in World War I that basically it happened because everybody kind of wanted to go to war.
Yeah, everybody, like the people in power wanted to go to war, but the populace didn't want to go to war, but then the effective advertising happened and all that wonderful stuff. But then immediately after the war, it was like, okay, we're done. Bye, guys. Bye. Despite Woodrow Wilson's best efforts before he died of a stroke.
Yep. Maybe because of all those best efforts, having to work so hard and giving himself a stroke.
Yeah. We wanted nothing to do with it. It was like, okay, bye. Bye.
Yep.
And then the Great Depression happened and all that fucking shit happened. And then we get into the 30s and then the rise of Hitler. And we just wanted nothing to do with any of that. Though we were perfectly happy to sell all of our shit to the French and the British especially.
Then eventually Hirohito was like, I kind of want Taiwan. And we got involved.
They wanted... History lesson, they did already have Taiwan, but they wanted China, and they were looking at British Singapore and the Dutch East Indies and French Indochina and American Philippines.
Yep.
They wanted all of that to fuel their war in China, and we were getting mad at them, rightfully so, for all the horrific shit they were doing in China, and we were funding a whole bunch of people that they didn't like. So Tojo said, like, all right, fuck it. We're just going to attack them. And hopefully, maybe the Americans are just too weak and lily-livered to really do anything about it. And by the time they do get to us, we'll win the war and we'll be ready to go and we can fight them and win. That didn't work.
Yep, he made the same miscalculation that Hitler did, which was that we would not, the moment anybody touched us, all unite over fuck that guy. And that's the mistake that Europeans always make, is that they assume that Americans are more invested in our interpersonal conflict than we are. Part of what is amazing about this era right now is that nobody has attacked us.
Nobody's attacked us
like
directly.
in a blood and guts kind of way, which is genius, right? Because that is the only thing that could save us right now. If Iran detonated a dirty bomb in Seattle, let's say, tomorrow we would all be on the same page again. We would rally behind Donald Trump. Yeah. Most of us. I wouldn't because I think he's a Nazi. But like the rank and file Democrat would.
Yeah, because it would be 9/11 all over again.
Exactly. That is the one mistake that could be made. And I imagine right now China is constantly on the phone with Iran being like, please don't just, I know they're pissing you off. I know right now the plan seems a little wonky. I promise. Just believe we got this. And if they can really manage to keep a lock on the rest of the world, they might have us. I don't know, because this is how America always gets out of shit. We kind of fight amongst each other and wait for somebody to spit on us, and we go, you did what to my mama? Like, that's who we are. And now that all the major belligerents are gone, and the existing belligerents have learned it's much more fun just to kind of poke us in the side and watch us freak out about it.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
We don't have, like... We don't really have anyone who is the adversary.
Nope.
Anymore.
Just the enemy within.
The enemy within, be it on the right, Antifa, or on the left, Profa.
MAGA, really.
MAGA, yeah, but call it for what it is.
Yeah, fa.
They are
fascists.
They are fascists. They are fascists, and we apparently we are, but we are also apparently and legitimately anti-fascist. Call it what it is. Anti-fascist. Why is it bad to be anti-fascist? But coming back to, we're hating each other. We hate each other more than we hate anybody else.
Yep.
And yeah, it's both by foreign geopolitical actors and also non-state actors.
Yep.
Entities who see no borders. Entities who have more money and thus more power than a bunch of state actors.
Yep.
And some of them, you could argue, are in the pockets of these state actors. You could also argue they're just their own entity that is pillaging from us the wealth that we have. And they don't give a fuck if it leaves us more vulnerable.
No, of course not.
Why do they care? They're not beholden to us. They're not beholden to the people. They're not beholden to the Constitution. They're not beholden to the President of the United States. They will pledge fealty to him.
Yeah, but that's different.
That's different. Bringing back to kings and vassals. The vassals will pledge fealty to the king, but they have more of the power in this particular case.
That's correct.
Because they could choose not to give their wealth to the king. They could choose not to give their power. Back then, it was troops. In this particular case, it is their social media platforms, for instance, or their corporations, for instance. They could choose not to give them to us. And what the fuck are we going to do about it?
Yep.
So who's truly beholden to who?
That's a good point.
How much power does the king actually have if we choose to look at it not through the realm of the Enlightenment era with absolutism, absolute monarchies and whatnot, where the nobles were thoroughly beholden to the king, but prior to that, prior to the Black Death,
the pre-capital view,
someone talked about this. Some guy with a really funny beard.
I can't imagine who that would be.
There were two guys with really funny beards.
Funny beards were kind of a thing of the times.
That's true. The 1800s had a lot of just immaculate facial hair.
Yes.
We should bring that back someday.
I'm working on it.
You are working on it. I'm trying to work on it. But anyways, just talking about this system of exploitation. But for me, looking back at it as a historian, the kings back then really did not have that much power. Not really. The keys to power had the power.
Well, I said it as a joke, but it actually might be capital that changed this. Because capital, specifically in the sense of money, like the instrument of money, the purpose of that is to conceptually reassign the ownership of the collective, basically dry labor powder of a society from the people and the kings and the institution just to the owner of the money. Just to the person who mints that money. Just the king. So that's part of what capital did to royalty, is it took them from basically an omnis servant of the people, a person who only has power because they listen to everybody around the kingdom and can consider more information than anybody else because they know more.
Right.
To somebody who has power because they have all the money. Because they have all the tokens that say, "It mine."
Yeah. Yeah, they're the new source of power.
And I will say that as much as reading this book made me want to throw Tulsi Gabbard out a window, I find myself wondering if maybe even this is an example of empathy affected to negative impact.
How so?
What if the propaganda worked on her too? What if she, because I don't think she wrote this book. I think we can agree that it's probably, at least she got a lot of help.
I can
what
agree.
If she didn't read, what if she didn't write this at all? What if the first time that she internalized these ideas was when she read this book and was like, oh my God, they're right. Oh my God, the Democratic Party is evil. I need to read this book and tell everybody. What if that's how this happened? What if that's what makes the empathy synthetic, is that she thinks it's real, and the performance of this entity that is faking empathy, performing fake empathy to this person who really needs it, is what creates that synthesis.
So it started in this case with the owner of the money going to Tulsi and going, "You are right."
Yeah, being like, you know what? Hillary was awful to you. The way the Democrats treated you was crap because the Democrats are fucking evil. Read this, and I'll bet you'll understand.
And
she came back and says, oh my God, you're right. You're 100% right. They are trash. And she doesn't really have the benefit of, because yeah, Trump 1 was pretty bad, but Trump 2 is so much worse.
It is so much worse in every way. It
is arguable that Tulsi could have not really expected, now granted the fact that she is still in the fold now, but she's a year plus into the indoctrination process. They've probably been working on her. Imagining that this happened to her just in her own mind, that's not empathetic. Empathic is realizing that she was probably, after she got crushed by the Democratic machine in 2020, deeply, both personally and professionally vulnerable. And they took that and they used it. Probably not just in 2024. This is probably a culmination of a lot of work on their part. Probably over years of grooming her to be an entity for their position.
Yeah, because she left the Democratic Party in 2022 and was an independent until October of 2024, early October, right before the election.
Exactly the same time that Tom Homan was running around soliciting bribes.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
When they were grooming that motherfucker too. As much as I would love to believe that Tom Homan is just this bribey, evil little entity. I'd love to believe that Tulsi Gabbard is just this brainless, myopic little shrew. But do we really believe that? Is that really an empathetic view of these people? Or does everything about our model of this policy, of these politics, of this ridiculous performative world imply that there's got to be some money goblin, not Jewish money goblin?
No,
racists.
No.
I use that term a lot, and I realize that there are people who use that term that mean it to mean it. I mean corporations.
Yeah,
these
ghouls.
Fictitious, non-human entities that deploy power on our behalf. Do we really believe that it was just that these people became evil and went to the Heritage Foundation and were like, I'd like to be evil together? Nah. I don't think that's the direction that these kinds of things go. I think it goes from the top down. I think these people like Leonard Leo say, we got to find some Democrats who are vulnerable, who would be willing to say, leave the party, I was part of it. So they look at people who have been laid low by the party. RFK Jr.,
yeah,
Tulsi Gabbard. And they go, you know what? They're evil. They lied to you. And they help you write books. They help you make money. They help you build a career around laying low the party that really did treat you unfairly.
They did. And that sounds like a cult.
Yes, it does. And that would explain. Now, granted, Tulsi, we know, is kind of cult vulnerable.
She is cult vulnerable. She has, there's plenty of, there's a whole wiki, section of her Wikipedia page that is just devoted to the oddity that is her upbringing.
Yeah, but that explains how she's still in the administration.
Because that is weird. How
did she just suddenly become this out of no? I don't think so. I don't think it was suddenly. I think they want us to believe that there were a million different little points of nebulation that created this conservative wave. I think that's bullshit. I think there's a very small pool, probably the Kochs, the Heritage Foundation constellation around Leo, and probably what's the third? The Federalist Society, the legal conservatives. I think it's a real small group who have gotten very, very good at hiding their hand in all of this.
Yeah. hiding it behind lots and lots of money and otherwise officially staying quiet.
Yeah, well, and a lot of people who they have managed to successfully indoctrinate.
And they've successfully indoctrinated them because their points of origin did legitimately cast them aside.
Yeah, and often come from a reflexive lack of empathy on the other side.
Yeah, because let's be real here, looping it to the MAGA voters when she brought up deplorables.
Yeah, she took that real personally.
We
But
did.
So did a lot of them.
But so did they, because Clinton did say that.
Yes, she did. It was a fucking stupid thing to say.
Yeah, and before that, back prior to 2012, I think, or something like that, during the Obama administration, all of those people out there that are clinging to their guns and religion.
Yeah, it's like...
And prior to
yes,
that...
but don't say that!
And prior to that, us calling them flyover states...
Yeah.
Because we just fly over them and ignore them.
Yep. And it's that lack of empathy. It's the, what about those places would make you want to fly over them? What about those places would make people feel so fucking hopeless that their only respite was God? What about those places makes people feel like the only way to stay safe is to be personally armed at all times? It's not because they're crazy.
It's because nobody gives a shit about them.
It's because they've, as great Father Bernie said, they abandoned us because we abandoned them.
We did abandon them. The coastal elite. Us!
Yep, 100%!
We abandoned them. And it is really hard, even now, for us, when we are actively trying to be empathetic to them. It is hard at times to maintain that empathy for them because of all of the rage that they have towards us. How do you be empathetic to somebody who has bottled up over a decade, if not more, of neglect and anger? How do you talk to someone like that?
Same way Jim Jones did it. You sit down and you ask them what they need. Because that's how he did. That's how that man got hundreds of people to fly down to South America and kill themselves with poison.
Yeah.
Because he sat down with old black grandmas and said, what do you need? And they would say, my landlord is trying to take my money. And he would show up at their house and scream at their landlord on their behalf. That is how you fix it. Because they've been, like, Trump voters don't feel about Democrats the way that they do because they've met a fucking Democrat. They feel about Democrats the way they do because they hear about us on Fox News.
24/7.
Bullshit about people that they've never met who truly don't care about them but we do. And it is possible for us to use our human legs to walk down there and with our human voices ask them what the fuck they need for their children to be happy, safe, and successful.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about all of the people they want to get rid of, but just the bread and butter issues. What do you need to have a comfortable life?
Yes, and ultimately, at first, they will say, we need the trans people to be gone, we need the immigrants to be gone, but they're saying that because they have been lied to. They have been told, here are your problems, these are the solutions. Any other solutions are unworkable, deny them. But they're now in a time where the solutions are purportedly being executed. And things are not getting better.
Things are not getting better. Gas is going up.
Things are getting worse faster.
Yeah.
This is an opportunity to go up and say, you know what? I'm not yes, I am a coastal elite in the sense that I live in California and I live off of stock dividends. But I am here because I think that what's happening is just as fucked up as for me as it is for you. And I want both of us to be okay. And I, in fact, am more concerned right now about you.
Yeah.
Because they will not believe that you are saying that. They have been told by every source of information in their life that this is impossible, that this would never happen because we are not humans in that way.
Yeah, and
that is so easily disprovable.
And I can go to these people and I can say, I'm not a Democrat. I left the party. I did what Tulsi said. I left the party, but I didn't do it for her reasons.
Mm-hmm. Well, you did it for her reasons, but they apply to your party too.
They
Now it's your turn.
Yeah. I left because the Democratic Party doesn't really care about me. They sure as shit don't care about you.
It's just a little better at pretending to care about you than them.
Yeah.
But the Republicans are the other way.
That's
how it always works.
Yeah. And I can say I'm coming at you as an independent, beholden to neither party, to tell you that despite all the rage that you have towards me because of what I am, a white, left-wing, coastal elite, I actually do give a shit about you. I want you to have a comfortable life. I want all of us to have a comfortable life. I want all of us to be safe from crime, be it from individuals or organizations. I want us as a country to be safe from enemies, both domestic and foreign. I want all citizens, regardless of their background, regardless of their race, of their creed, of their sex, of their gender, all of us to have a comfortable, healthy, productive, safe, and secure life. All of us. And I want to be able to talk to you about some of these simple things. I want your child to have an education. I want your family to have health care. I want you to have retirement. I want you to be able to go on vacation somewhere, be it out of the country or just somewhere within the country, or even a staycation, to just relax a little bit. I want the American people to enjoy the fruits of our labor. And I want everyone to stop stealing from us. I want everyone to stop oppressing us. I want everyone to stop ignoring us. And I want all of us to have friends. Not those that I've only seen online and I don't even think are real, but actual people who care about each other, who care if I'm happy about something and want to share in that. Or if I'm sad about something, they will provide that shoulder to cry upon. Or if I'm angry about something, they will hear me out. Let me vent and be like, I get it, man. Or I get it. I'm with you. I understand. This is where it begins. By not being filled with rage towards our fellow countrymen, our fellow free men and women.
As long as their net worth is below $100 million. If they're above $100 million, you're allowed to yell at them. That's my pitch.
I want us to actually give a shit about each other, to live in a society where we can go outside and feel safe, feel happy, have goals, have dreams.
Feel at home.
This is our home. All of us. This is our home. And it's burning right now. It's burning, and we're being told on the left, it's your guys' fault. And on your side, you're being told it's our fault. It's not. It's not our fault that our house is currently burning. And first things first, let's put out this fucking fire that's currently burning down our home. And then once we decide to shut the hell up at yelling at each other and actually put out the fire, then we can look and see who is the same entity that is feeding us these lies, these parasocial relationships, this synthetic empathy and direct righteous anger towards them. And I'll end on this last note, and this was recently brought up to me in some video, where during the assassination of Charlie Kirk, there was a woman in the crowd who was with her child, and in the chaos, she got separated from her child. And this woman was a hardcore Charlie Kirk fan. And there was a college student, a liberal, who found her child and brought the child back to her, safe and sound.
Real empathy.
This was a time where people who were supposed to hate each other came together to protect one another, even though they were strangers, even though they were told to hate each other. And instead, they came together to help and save each other from an horrific, scary time. That is what we need to do right now. This is a scary time. We are in danger. And instead of blaming each other, come together and help each other through this time. And through that genuine empathy, we can finally be a healthy, safe, and happy society again.
And now for the section we like to call our denouement. So first question, who wrote this book?
Per Skyhorse Publishing, Tulsi Gabbard is an Army Reserve officer with more than 20 years in service, a former member of Congress and a presidential candidate, author, and keynote speaker. She was elected to the Hawaii legislature at the age of 21 and served on 3 deployments to the Middle East and Africa. She represented Hawaii's 2nd Congressional District from 2013 to 2021 and was vice chairman of the Democratic National Committee. She left the Democratic Party in 2022 to become an independent until she announced she was joining the Republican Party at a Trump rally in Greensboro, North Carolina on October 22nd, 2024. Since then, she has become the Director of National Intelligence in the 2nd Trump administration.
Second question, why was this book written?
See what we said about Tammy Bruce and Pete Hegseth. These are right-wing airing of grievances in written form, but with the added benefit of coming from someone who, unlike them, actually was left-wing in many instances. And so she actually has some cred to spend here. Now, along with that, and more importantly, this was a CV. Note where she is now. Note how important and beloved she became, at least openly, in Trump's campaign and her becoming the Director of National Intelligence. She was aligning herself with Trump without obviously aligning herself with Trump. And by obviously, I mean flat out saying, I think Donald Trump is the greatest human being to ever live. Because it was obviously, it's just pretty obvious otherwise that she was sucking up to him for a job in the White House. And don't knock it till you try it, folks. It worked.
And last question, should you read this book?
So, this is what I initially said. No, don't even bother. Don't listen to the audiobook version either. That extremely out of left field singing of Amazing Grace was beyond cringe and left me flabbergasted and taken aback. Because this was a book that gaslit both of us so much that we couldn't take any of her critiques of the Democratic Party seriously because she never went after the Republican Party. That being said, after our unscripted portion, after thinking about it a little bit more, there are some legitimate grievances that she has with the Democratic Party. This is something where I don't think you can take this book at face value. You can't. This is just a propaganda rag if you just take it at face value. But think of it more as someone who was kicked out of the Democratic Party, who was abandoned by the left wing of politics, and who was taken in by the other side, who was taken in by the Heritage Foundation and told to do this book, and thus regain credibility and regain respect, regain a job, and regain power that was lost to her. And think about that in regards to MAGA, the voters, everyone who was abandoned by both the Republican Party prior to Trump and the Democratic Party. If you take it in that regard, if you have that viewpoint reading through this book, you might gain some insight into what synthetic empathy is, which is what was written here, and what true empathy is in how we see her now. Thanks for joining us for this episode of Perpetually Exasperated. If today's conversation got you thinking a little bit deeper and a little more exasperated about everything, we want to hear from you. Give us a like, leave a review, share the show. Please send your feedback, thoughts, or questions you'd like us to answer in your comments.
Next time, we'll be reading and talking about 107 Days by former Vice President Kamala Harris, a book where, as per Simon & Schuster, Kamala, quote, offers an unfiltered look at the pressures, triumphs, and heartbreaks of a history-defining campaign. With behind-the-scenes details and a voice that is both intimate and urgent, this is more than a political memoir. It's a chronicle of resilience, leadership, and the high stakes of democracy in action.
Until then, be critical, be skeptical, and remember, it's okay to be exasperated and to think outside the binary political spectrum presented to us. Stay safe, friends.